Jedes Jahr versuchen extrem viele Menschen Fett zu verlieren, haben dann aber leider keine Erfolge und geben extrem schnell wieder auf. Infolgedessen legen sie oft noch mehr Fett zu und ihre Gesundheit verschlechtert sich weiterhin. Für genau diese Menschen soll es aber ein neues Wundermittel für Fettverlust geben. Ja, ich weiß genau, wie das klingt, aber das schauen wir uns heute im Video an.
4.9 kilograms I've lost in 9 days because of this. I was supposed to take this for a month, but I had to stop after 2 weeks because I lost too much weight. Come in. Thought I'd lean up a little bit. I didn't want to end up like this guy. I told people not to take this. I recommended them against it, and you won't hear me say this a lot, but I was wrong.
Das ist
I'm supposed to use this miracle fat loss drug for a month, but I'm going to have to stop after 2 weeks because I'm going to fade away. Now, I'll put 2 comparison pictures up here, and I know there's not a great deal of difference because I wasn't exactly massive to begin with. But 4.9 kilograms in less than 2 weeks, that's a lot. The embarrassing thing is here, quite a few of you will remember that maybe even a couple of months ago, I did a video telling you not to ever use this fat loss compound or drug. Also
die Frage ist halt auch, ist das jetzt einfach 4,9 Kilo, wenn du halt erstmal Wasser droppst, Magenvolumen, dann halt noch ein bisschen Fett? Oder ist er jetzt schon wieder so gesehen normal am Essen und es sind trotzdem 4,9 Kilo? Also so oder so ist halt krass in 9 Tagen. Wenn es jetzt wirklich dann nur Fett wäre, wäre es halt noch viel heftiger.
As a personal trainer, I was very, very against it. Here's the problem. If we look at a population as a whole, let's say that's everyone in the United Kingdom. Do you know how many people in the United Kingdom have got a gym membership? About 14%. And 14% of those aren't even using it all the time. So there's a massive cohort of people in the United Kingdom that are unmotivated, on the borderline of giving up. They probably, I don't know, downloaded Joe Wicks's SSS 90-day hit plan, did a couple of burpees, and I'm not surprised they gave up. The majority of people in the world are unmotivated. And do you blame them? Conflicting information, idiots online. Oh, do keto, do burpees. Have you ever done a burpee before? So although my advice still stands, that cohort A should be increasing step count, reducing food intake, eating a high protein diet, going to the gym, you've heard it all before. I thought to myself, before dismissing this fat loss compound.
Das ist halt auch wieder so die Frage, ne? Ich glaube, darauf wird er jetzt auch eingehen, dass wenn du halt extremst übergewichtig bist, dann ist es halt so ungesund auf deinen Körper, dass du dann eventuell, ich denke mal, es geht um Ozempic, das nehmen könntest, um halt abzunehmen. So gesehen, die Nachteile, das zu nehmen, sind halt geringer als dein extrem starkes Übergewicht. Klar, es ist halt immer besser, wenn du sagst einfach, jo, geh ins Defizit, mach Sport, bla bla bla, was er eben auch gesagt hat. Aber für manche ist es halt dann legit echt nicht umsetzbar oder sie wollen es nicht oder können es nicht, keine Ahnung. Und da würde es dann halt wirklich helfen. Oder eventuell sogar, bevor du so eine Magen-OP machst oder so. Klar kann es halt, weil ich weiß, auf deine Schilddrüse dann gehen und dass du dadurch Probleme bekommen kannst. Ja, keine Ahnung, es ist dann halt dieser Trade-off von extremem Übergewicht zu da eventuell Probleme bekommen, müsste halt dein Arzt entscheiden, ne? Aber da würde ich es halt wieder nachvollziehen können. Aber wenn du halt einfach, keine Ahnung, jetzt ein Fitness-Influencer bist und einfach nur noch keinen Bock hast, zum Beispiel er jetzt, wenn er das halt so auf Real die ganze Zeit nehmen würde, wäre es halt einfach nur dumm. Weißt, wie du abnimmst, du kannst es auch, aber du riskierst halt unnötige Nachteile dafür mit deiner Gesundheit.
Could it benefit cohort B? So I called up my local dealer, no luck. So instead, I found a peptide clinic in Australia called Biovate. And as a duty of care, I had to do a doctor consultation. I was completely honest and transparent with them. I even said I was taking the peptides to do a video. But due to how absolutely rubbish the BMI scale is, I come up as overweight, borderline obese. So with my legitimate, truthful height versus weight, I can qualify for this. But anyway, how rubbish the BMI is another video altogether.
BMI macht halt absolut keinen Sinn, weil wenn ihr halt trainiert seid, so habt ihr natürlich mehr Muskelmasse. Dementsprechend bezieht er das aber nicht ein. Das heißt, ihr seid halt einfach schwerer. Deswegen eigentlich jeder, der trainiert, ist halt so gesehen übergewichtig laut BMI. Aber es ist ja nicht wirklich, weil soll ja eigentlich um die Fettmasse gehen bei Untrainierten halt. Also ich glaube, ich pushe auch 30er BMI oder so. Oder ich war zumindest mal auf dem 30er BMI. Aktuell weiß ich das gerade gar nicht. Aber lass mal gucken. Männlich. Aber einfach 91. Lol, auch 28. Ist schon Übergewicht, ne? Und was war ich bei? Da war ich aber echt auch gut fett, ne? Aber jo. Ja, ganz schlimm. Aber da war ich auch legit gut fett schon. Aber trotzdem ist halt absoluter Bullshit so.
Semaglutide, also the brand name Ozempic. I think Ozempic is just the way they put it in the pen, but I got it in its peptide form. And everyone's talking about everyone in Hollywood taking this compound, taking this drug. So I thought to myself, if everyone in Hollywood and everyone is taking semaglutide, is it really that good? And is this really going to help cohort B when it comes to dieting? And my God, if semaglutide was a person, I'd owe them an apology. Let's start with the mechanism. How does semaglutide work? I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but it's a GLP-1 agonist that mimics a receptor that talks to your brain. And like I said, it's a glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist. It's a GLP-1 agonist, obviously. Without trying to be Derek from More Plates, More Dates, let me explain how this works. I'm 34 years old, and it feels like my entire life I've been on a diet. I was the fat kid at school asking dinner ladies what was fattening, and through all of that time, I developed a chip on my shoulder because no one really told me how to lose fat. And when I learned fat, I became the calorie deficit guy. Piers Morgan even called me the Gordon Ramsay of fitness.
Being called the Gordon Ramsay of the fitness industry, James Smith.
TDE, this is going to represent the amount of calories that we burn on a daily basis. And the majority of fat loss compounds that I've taken before upregulate your metabolism, like clenbuterol. Throughout the years in my 20s, trying to fit in the fitness industry, I would take things that would upregulate my metabolism. I'd be getting tremors, anxiety.
Aber selbst solche Sachen wie Koffein und so würden das halt schon pushen. Deswegen habt ihr auch in den ganzen Fettburnern, die an sich ja nicht funktionieren, Koffein drin, weil ihr dann halt einfach euch mehr bewegt. Manche kennen es ja so, dass ihr dann einfach die ganze Zeit mit eurem Bein wippt und das verbraucht halt alles Kalorien. Nicht viel, aber es ist halt extra was. Da gibt es halt tausende Wege, so gesehen mehr zu verbrauchen. Manche machen dann auch diese 10k Steps halt voll die ganze Zeit. Ist halt auch einfach easy mehr Verbrauch. Ja, so könnt ihr es dann halt auch erhöhen. Also wenn ihr mehr Defizit pushen wollt, zum Beispiel in der Diät.
Anxiety, shakes, cramps, but I'd be getting leaner because my body was burning way more calories. And semaglutide doesn't work with that mechanism. Semaglutide works by reducing the appetite, so therefore you eat less. And there are so many people across the world that think they have a broken metabolism. They think that for some reason their bodies failed them, and they point their finger to absolutely everything. But in reality, when they start taking Ozempic or semaglutide, they drop loads of weight. The majority of people's metabolism problems aren't that they're not burning enough calories, it's that they're over-consuming the amount of calories they need. Because if it was their metabolism that was broken, when they started taking Ozempic or semaglutide, they wouldn't lose weight.
Du kannst halt auch nicht, beziehungsweise du kannst es, aber die meisten, die davon betroffen sind und das Problem haben, dass sie halt dann so übergewichtig sind, können halt auch nicht ihren Appetit outworken, sag ich mal. Also wenn du halt dazu tendierst, übergewichtig zu sein, wird es wahrscheinlich sein, dass wenn du einmal joggen gehst, das nicht ausgleicht, wenn du den ganzen Tag dann irgendwelche Chips und so reinhaust. Aber das muss ja nicht mit Chips sein. Wenn du extrem viel isst, kannst du ja auch selbst mit gesunden Lebensmitteln so gesehen dich einfach halt über deine Kalorien pushen. Und wenn du halt im Überschuss bist, nimmst du halt zu. Wenn du im Defizit bist, nimmst du ab. So. That's it halt. Und da gibt es halt auch keine Wege irgendwie umzu oder so.
Now, my entire life, I've got friends that I look at and they do this incredible thing where they're eating a meal, then they leave food on their plate and they say, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? How do you leave food on your plate? How do you say no? How do you forget to eat? When people get to dinner and they're like, oh my God, I completely forgot to. How did you forget to eat? All I think about is food. It's all I think about. It's the main thing that makes me happy on a daily basis. So whenever I diet or I go into a calorie restricted period in my life, I have to give up a lot of happiness in a bid to try and make myself happy. It's like a paradox. After taking semaglutide, I thought I felt sick all the time, but I just felt not really bothered by food, which was completely new to me. I felt in control. My missus said, do you want a bit of chocolate? I said no. She looked at me and thought, who is this man I'm sharing a house with? Because that's not the man I remembered before. Now, it's not all happy days. I struggled a lot to get my protein quotas in. I never hit it any of the time I was taking it. And in fact, one morning I tried forcing in a protein shake when I wasn't hungry and it crippled me for about an hour of feeling sick. But still, I ate slower. I enjoyed my food. And for the first time in my life, I had a microwave meal. I got halfway through and thought, oh, better put that in the fridge for later. In 34 years, that's never happened. All of those people that eat slowly and enjoy their food and don't wolf it down so quick you think they get indigestion, I was one of those people for 2 weeks. And it's not that I couldn't enjoy food. It's not that I didn't enjoy sitting down and having something. It's just, I ate less, probably 30% less. And I didn't have to try. I didn't track calories, didn't hit high protein. I just ate less. I wanted to hate this so much. But after taking this for 2 weeks, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was walking into a shop the other day and I saw a guy, he was pretty fat. He was a big boy. The first thing that came to me was, if that was my dad, I would jab him with this when he's not looking. And he'd go, oh, bloody hell, son, what was that? I go, shut up, dad, see you in a week. There are people out there that just don't want to hashtag rise and grind, hashtag calorie deficit. And I feel like this could be perfect for them. But let's get into administration. Injecting's not easy. It's one of those things a lot of people can get squeamish with. The good news is that compared to other compounds, anabolic steroids, you've got to inject like twice a week. And usually for anabolic steroids, you go to the upper outer quadrant of your arse cheek. This is like a least vascular area. So imagine me 10 years ago, I'm laying in bed. I've been taking clenbuterol all day. I've got tremors in my hand. I've got an intramuscular injection site. I'm putting the pin into my glute. Suddenly, I get cramp in my hand. I turn in to the guy out of Scary Movie. Use my strong hand, child. I've got an injectable pin sticking out my ass. It's about an inch into my glute. My mum comes down. She goes, James, darling, dinner. I'm like, Mum, don't come in. I'm cleaning my room. I've now got a needle sticking out my ass and I've got to inject that testosterone into my butt cheek, hoping I haven't hit a vein.
Oder das würde mich auch so abfucken, ne? Selbst bei Tests so und so, wie ihr schon meint, ist es halt nervig, dass du das dann immer wieder nehmen musst. Aber wenn du dann so die Pro-Bodybuilder anguckst, die nehmen ja mehrmals am Tag auch Insulin und alles andere. Reisen ist ja fast unmöglich damit, wenn du jetzt auch da keine wirklichen Kontakte hast und so. Nee, Mann, bleib lieber netti.
It's a lot easier, I'll show you. This is for educational purposes, by the way. If you were to consider doing any peptide of any type, you would need to talk to a doctor, get a script, make your own decisions. I'm just doing this to inform you. Peptides use a much smaller injection, which goes in something called subcutaneous, which means it goes into belly fat. So this kind of injection, it's not very big, it's not very scary. And granted, the first time you inject with it, it'll be pretty fucking frightening, but it's not too bad. The things I do, education, isn't it? So it's not too scary. I mean, there's not much that can go wrong with that. As far as subcutaneous injections, one of those a week. And for a lot of people, that could mean losing kilograms of fat on a weekly basis. And when you look to maybe only injecting once a week, that's very infrequent compared to other peptides. There are other peptides like CJC 1295 and ipamorelin, which is a growth hormone peptide.
Könnt ihr hier auch abchecken, hat auch alles genommen mittlerweile. Das ist schon ein bisschen älter, das Video hier. Haben wir auch darauf reagiert. Ja, er hat das da für Regeneration und so genommen. War auch ein sehr interessantes Video.
That Andrew Huberman and Joe Rogan take. And in fact, you actually probably want to subscribe to this channel if you haven't, because my next video will be explaining what 10 weeks taking growth hormone secretagogues did to my training recovery. But for that, you're injecting once to twice a day. For fat loss, once a week. And I appreciate that for the full efficacy of these compounds, you'd want to take them for months, not weeks. I don't think it's too much of a bad deal. Now, it's worth looking up on semaglutide and its side effects, and that was one of the main things that was getting me worried about taking it in the first place. And one of the biggest side effects was muscle loss. But I appreciate if you're going to completely nuke someone's appetite, getting protein in, enough protein to maintain and grow muscle is difficult as it is, let alone with no appetite, and I've definitely struggled with that. But I think that the majority of populations that have been taking this compound have not been trained. So therefore, if you get untrained populations that aren't lifting weights or doing resistance training and you reduce their appetite, of course they're going to lose massive amounts of muscle. But I think if we can educate people to lift weights and eat as much protein as they can whilst taking things like this, it can have a really beneficial effect to their health. And we've always got to weigh up.
Ist es der einzige Nachteil? Übelkeit, Erbrechen, seltenen Fällen ist es Bauchspeicheldrüsenentzündung und erhöht das Risiko von Schilddrüsenkrebs. Ja, also laut FDA ist es halt so.
Negatives of a compound versus benefits it could have to someone's life. And I can't help but think that someone losing 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 kilograms of fat using something like this, the health benefits are going to get far outweigh any side effects you get from it. So if you were to ask me if this is going to be the end of obesity, before I would have said no. Now I'm saying I'm not sure. Because what I think this compound will do for millions of people is vastly reduce the amount of people that are unmotivated, that have given up, that are never going to want to set foot in a gym or work with a personal trainer. And I think it's going to vastly grow the amount of people that become motivated. Because one of the biggest lessons I can give you in life, even outside of fat loss, is that action always precedes motivation. Everyone goes through life thinking they need to find motivation, then start with something. But that's not the way life works. You need to start at something and you only find motivation on the way after you've begun. And for a lot of obese people out there that have given up, they're probably waiting for a burst of motivation to come along. And quite frankly, it's not going to come. But if you inject them, that will reduce their appetite and they drop 10, 15, 20 kilograms, they're going to find motivation along the way. And I think a large amount of them will be able to keep it up. Now, this drug isn't perfect by any means. But if scientists and all those boffins out there can continue to improve it for years to come, well, the landscape of fat loss might look vastly different in 20 years.
Boys, wenn euch das Video gefallen hat, lasst ein Like da, lasst ein Abo da und wir sehen uns morgen wieder.